Hi, my name is Borys, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a melodic house beat from scratch. We'll create some nice chords and synth patterns and program simple drums. Before we get into the video, if you like what we are doing on this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got more content on music production in Ableton coming up, and if you'd like to improve your melodic house production, make sure to see our Melodic House Academy, which is a complete program that takes your tracks to the next level. And if you're a beginner and you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out our Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course. Alright, so let's jump into it. By the way, all of today's samples are right here in this folder, and you can download it for free in the link which is in the description if you'd like to follow along with the tutorial. Alright, so here's the fragment that we're going to be making today. By the way, the project is in 124 BPM, so you can just set your project file to this tempo and let's get started. I'll move the loop brace to the right. Let's make a brand new MIDI track and let's just drop a kick drum on it. Here we have a kick drum from our pack Deep Premium Volume 7. We have a glue compressor and we're boosting the gain quite a bit on the master, so I'm just going to turn this down so that we're not hitting the soft clipping yet. Let's make a 1-bar loop and add a 4 to the floor pattern, just the C3 note 4 times, and we can actually loop this over our 16 bars. And now just increasing the release so that the entire kick is playing. We're not going to be adding any processing here. If you've got quality kicks, then you can do small adjustments and you don't really need to shape them that much. A good kick should sound good by itself. Alright, so let's make another MIDI track. And in Melodic House, probably the most important part to get right is the chord progression, because it needs to really drive the track forward, needs to be evolving, needs to be in the right mood. Our chord progression is going to take 8 bars. I'm gonna right click here, insert empty MIDI clip. But first, let's choose analog as our instrument. Just a quick search for analog and dropping it onto our second track. Let's just lower the frequency of the analog device. Here's what it sounds like. Let's quickly design our patch. I don't need the second oscillator, so let's just stick with the saw. And let's lower the frequency to around 390. And I'm going to be adding quite a bit of attack, so around 50 milliseconds of attack. And we can add quite a bit of decay as well, so over 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. But we can lower the envelope amount here to around 3. On top of this, let's put some effects really quickly. I'm going to search for reverb, around 30% of reverb, and let's increase the chorus. And maybe we can also increase the decay to around 2 seconds. On top of this, we're just going to be adding some sidechain compression, and we're going to be sidechaining to the kick, so let's choose it quickly. Maybe we can also use the EQ. So we have sidechain compression set up. We can start making our chord pattern. First of all, the scale that we're going to be using is the A sharp major scale. So let's choose that. Here's A sharp. And if we click scale, we have just the notes from our scale. The progression is going to be a 4-6-5-3 progression, which is a progression that doesn't include the 1, so the chord that's built on the first step of the scale. And because of that, the chord progression is really driving forward all the time, and it doesn't give the listener a full sense of resolution at any point, which is really nice. Let's add some chords. I'm just changing the grid so the gaps are a bit wider. First of all, our first step of the scale would be the A sharp. But we want to start with the 4, so D sharp would be the 4, and then we're going to be going to 6 at 3, then to 5, and to the 3. So I'm just counting from A sharp, what's the step of the scale, and this chord, let's place it right here. Now let's click legato, so we connect all the notes, and let's add some intervals. Let's just add simple triads, and let's just play it. Let's change up the timing of these chords. So I'm just going to go into 8 notes here with the grid, and let's move around these chords. So this chord, we're going to shorten it here and also here, and let's extend this one, and then also this chord we're going to be shortening like this and extending this one. So let's play it now. Yeah, it just gives us different timing in these sort of offbeat positions here, so it's not always on the downbeat. This just makes our chord progression already a bit more interesting, but we can also add some extensions and invert the chords so that it's really elaborate sounding. Okay, so first of all, we're going to be duplicating this note over on the first chord because this forms now a 7. So you can see that we're skipping one note. This is the 3, this is the 5, and this is the 7th here on the D sharp chord. With the second chord, we're going to be doubling the 3rd, an octave above. And with the 3rd chord, we're going to be adding a 4, so a note between the 3 and the 5th. And for the 4th chord, we're going to be adding a 6, so above the 5th, one note right here. And now let's do some quick inversions. Let's take the thirds from the 1st, from the 3rd, and from the 4th chord, and put them an octave above. And let's move the entire chord progression an octave down. So we're starting at D sharp 2, and let's play it. Yeah, it loops nicely. We have these nice clusters, so especially this chord, it sounds quite elaborate, and then this chord also, and we're not resolving at any point, so we always have a little bit of that tension. And yeah, because of these nice extensions like the 7th here, the chords sound really nice and elaborate. So I really like this chord progression. For now we're going to stick with what we have, but later we can automate this frequency knob to add a bit of movement to this sound. Okay, so let's add another MIDI track, and this time we're going to be adding a bass. So it's really simple. We can duplicate the MIDI from the second track. We can also add analog. We can just delete all the notes which are not the bass notes. And we can select all the notes, maybe go to 16th note grid, and we can click Ctrl and E or Command and E on Mac. And now we have chopped these notes to the grid, so we are playing 16th notes. Now let's quickly design a bass patch, and we're going to be just using the square waves here. And one of the square waves we're going to be putting an octave down. Let's lower the frequency. We're probably playing too high the notes. Let's move that an octave down. Let's lower the gain of the second. We can also shape the width of the pulse wave, so we can do over 70% on the second one. We can also try shaping this sound with the amp envelope. And just to avoid some clicks, we can slightly shorten the MIDI notes here. Let's quickly hear what this sounds like along with the chord progression. I'm just going to copy the sidechain compression from the chords. Just adjusting some settings. Let's play it. Now let's proceed on to the melody. We're making melodic house, so the most important elements are the harmonic elements, and then we'll take care of the drums. So let's insert a new MIDI track and also drop analog on it. Alright, so for this sound we're just going to be using a saw wave, then some noise as well, but let's just lower the frequency for now. Let's lower it to around 440. Let's stick with the default amount of envelope applied to it. Let's just lower the sustain all the way down, and the decay we're going to be using at around 450 milliseconds. And then we can also add the noise with a bit of color, but just so we can make it a bit more subtle. Okay, so our pattern is also going to take 8 bars, so let's add that. And we're going to be having a sort of dotted rhythm here, and we're going to be skipping 2 notes every time. We'll start from E sharp 2. We're skipping 2 16th notes between each note. And here we are going to be just going back, skipping one note, and we're going to be duplicating this pattern. And with the fourth time that we're repeating it, we're just going to go up. Let's also take this pattern now and duplicate it once again. And here we'll do a turnaround at the end. So let's listen. Let's add some effects on top of it. The most important effect here is going to be the delay. So let's search for delay. And we can do something a bit interesting. We can have a different timing for the left and the right channel, a bit lower the feedback, and also let's lower the dry wet. Let's hear it. We can go into the ping pong mode. So this adds a bit of stereo interest. These nice echoes are really common in melodic house. We can do a bit of EQing. Maybe we can cut off some low end here. So just to clean up some low frequencies. So here's what we're cutting out. Some of the mud. And we can also copy, for example, the sidechain compression from the chords. And what we can do now is duplicate this pattern, but split it in half here. And also here, copy the notes up an octave. And maybe the notes which are higher, we can make them lower velocity. So we can just have a bit of variety here. So that's what we have. Let's play everything together now. So it's quite static. What we can do now is actually automate something that's going to add a lot of movement and energy to our sound. The first thing is just enabling automations, clicking this button right here. We can click on the filter frequency knob in analog, and we can just maybe solo this, try to, and maybe make this a bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. Let's stick with a subtle setting. And maybe we can go much higher here. And yeah, we can also do changes like tilting this entire automation, maybe like this. And let's try to copy this automation onto the melody that we have. So I'm just going to press this plus, and this opens up this automation in another lane. I can hit Ctrl and C here. And on this analog device, I can just hit Ctrl and V, but it just pastes it to whatever automation I have selected now. So we can select the filter frequency and paste it right here. We can also try to shape this with an EQ. Okay, so with a few tweaks of the automations, of the EQ, of the automations on the chords, we already have this. Let's give this a quick listen. Actually, we can also add another synth here, which is going to support the melody. But for that, we can just copy our melody and remove the MIDI. And we're going to be just adding an 8-bar empty MIDI clip. And let's draw in the pattern. We're going to be skipping one note here. Skipping one note again and doing the same thing. Skipping one note. And doing this instead of going back to the G. And we can do the same thing once again, C and F, and just go back to A. And we can take this progression which lasts 1 bar and just duplicate it onto 4 bars, and then we'll change it in the 5th bar. And let's focus on the 5th bar now. Let's move around the notes a bit. So let's take this to B, this up to the B, so playing an octave here. This note 1 step down to E sharp, this note 1 step down, and this all the way up to B sharp. And we can now follow with the notes that we've set. Let's move this note 1 step up and this note 1 step down. So let's play it. And this nice pattern we're also going to be playing until the end of the clip, and we'll extend it over. So let's play it. And this nice ARP now can play in the background. Now, all I've done here is just messed around with the frequency, changed the decay a bit, and also just cut some more low end here from this instrument. And we can also take echo here and put it after our delay to add even more reflections, lower the dry wet a bit. Added 8 notes. We could even take the reverb preset called Shimmer Plate, large shimmer plate, and we can place it after the echo. We can do the same thing as with the rest. We can slightly automate the cutoff here. We can also duplicate this part, maybe open it up a bit more in this section. Okay, I think we have all we need now for the synths, and let's just continue with the drums. I'm just going to call this our melody, and this is going to be the background ARP. Let's add a few loops to quickly fill out the high end, and we have really nice loops here in the free download. First of all, we're going to take a percussion loop. It's at 122 BPM, so I'm just going to set temporarily the project to that tempo, so it's easier to warp. And I'm going to warp this and go back to 124. So it's quite bright. I can take EQ and quite muffle it, because we only want some offbeat percussion here in the mid layer mostly. I can do maybe like this. I'm just maybe going to group this with the kick, and let's add another MIDI track in the group. This time we're going to take a hat loop. This one is in 123 BPM, so same deal as with the perc loop. Just quickly changing up the tempo, warping, going back to 124, and we can loop it and extend it over. We can also put some EQ on this. And we can also have sidechain maybe from the chords. And let's take a shaker loop now, making another audio track and taking the shaker loop, it's at 125, putting this in, warping, looping, going back 1 BPM, and let's hear it. Maybe we can go to complex mode. And let's process it a bit. I'm just also going to add sidechain compression and maybe EQ as well. Let's hear it in context. And let's take another element, it's going to be the right sample. This one is at 122, warping, looping, and going back to 124. Extending it, copying the effects from the shaker loop, and just messing around with the EQ here. And this should fill out our high frequencies quite a bit. One last thing that we can do is add another MIDI track this time, and we can add some noise in the background. And a great way of adding noise is one, we could use analog, we've got a noise generator there, but we can also use operator. And what's super cool about operator is that we can add stereo noise, so it can really fill out the stereo spectrum here. Instead of the sine wave, we can have white noise. And you can disable the filter, so it's the entire frequency spectrum, and we can just make a long MIDI clip at the C3 note, hit legato, and we can copy the effects once again, so the EQ and the sidechain. Maybe we can even have some mids here, but we can maybe have a shelf like this, so it's really nice, warm white noise. And let's just mix it in, see how it works with the rest. Maybe we can muffle the high end of the shakers a bit. Let's hear it once again. The one thing I forgot to add here is stereo and operator, and this can be easily done by just enhancing the spread knob here. So if we just move it up a bit, it's going to play in stereo. We could also add some claps, so I'm just going to add a new MIDI track in the drums group, and here in our one-shots folder we have 2 claps. I'm just going to double click on the first one, right click, and go into group to drum rack. I'm also going to drop the second one here. On the second one, I'm just going to crop this to this position so that we don't get this sharp part at the beginning. And then let's just make a pattern for 1 bar. And I'm just going to add claps on 1.2 and 1.4. Let's hear it. Okay, that's way too loud. First of all, let's turn this down. Loop this. And I'm going to put some effects here. These sound really dry, so I'm just going to put some reverb on top of this. Very subtle, but first of all, let's choose the size and decay. Also, I'm going to take an EQ and we're going to muffle this sound quite a bit. Let's first of all clean the lows, but then we can also muffle the high end. And we can just make this real subtle. Okay, so let's play everything now. And as for the mastering, the only thing we have here is the glue compressor. We're not doing any compression, just soft clipping towards the end, just using the makeup gain to boost the signal, and then we are just slightly hitting the soft clipper instead of limiting, and this also gives us -0.5 dB of headroom. Alright, I think we have it. Alright, I hope you found this melodic house beat tutorial useful. Make sure to check out our Music Production Academy with start to finish courses on making tracks in various genres. If you'd like to improve your melodic house production, make sure to see the Melodic House Academy, which is a complete program that takes your tracks to the next level. And if you're a beginner and you'd like to learn Live 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out the Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course. All links you'll find in the video description. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, leave us a like, write a comment, and I will see you in the next ones.